Willpower Doesn't Work begins with a provocative idea. Most people believe success comes from discipline, self-control, and the ability to resist temptation through sheer mental effort. Benjamin Hardy argues that this belief is deeply flawed. The real reason many people fail is not because they are weak, but because they are trying to change in the wrong way. The usual self-improvement story says that if you want to lose weight, build better habits, improve your focus, save money, or reach a major goal, you just need more willpower. You need to try harder, say no more often, and stay stronger than your impulses. But Hardy says this is a losing strategy. In the modern world, distractions are too strong, temptations are too constant, and stress is too high for most people to rely on self-control alone. This is a refreshing idea because it removes a lot of unnecessary shame. Many people think their repeated failures prove they are lazy, inconsistent, or undisciplined. But Hardy suggests something very different. If your environment is full of distractions, emotional triggers, easy temptations, and conflicting demands, then trying to win through raw willpower is like trying to swim against a powerful current all day long. The book's message is not that discipline has no value. It is that discipline works best when it is supported by structure. Success becomes much more likely when your surroundings help you make better choices instead of forcing you to constantly resist worse ones. That is why this book feels so practical. It shifts the focus away from internal struggle and toward external design. Instead of asking, how can I become strong enough to resist everything? The better question becomes, how can I shape my environment so the right choices become easier and the wrong choices become harder? This is a major shift in perspective. It turns self-improvement into something more intelligent and less exhausting. Rather than constantly fighting yourself, you begin building a life where success is more natural. The book opens with a simple but powerful lesson. If your strategy depends on endless self-control, it will probably break. If your strategy is built on better systems and better environments, it has a much better chance of lasting. One of the book's central lessons is that environment shapes behavior more powerfully than most people realize. Hardy argues that people are deeply influenced by what surrounds them. The spaces they live in, the people they spend time with, the digital tools they use, the food they keep nearby, the cues they see every day, and the structure of their schedule all quietly influence what they do. This matters because many people keep trying to improve while leaving their environment unchanged. They want to eat healthier while keeping junk food easy to reach. They want to focus better while working beside constant notifications. They want to stop wasting time while surrounding themselves with endless distraction. Then they blame themselves when willpower eventually collapses. Hardy's point is that the brain does not operate in isolation. It responds to cues, friction, availability, and patterns. If your surroundings constantly invite bad behavior, then the bad behavior becomes much more likely. If your surroundings support good behavior, then discipline becomes easier. That makes environment one of the most important levers in personal growth. Small environmental shifts can change daily behavior in ways that feel almost disproportionate. Moving the phone out of reach can improve focus. Removing certain foods can improve eating habits. Changing where you work can improve productivity. Changing who you spend time with can raise your standards. This idea is extremely useful because it creates practical leverage. Instead of fighting every battle in the moment, you start winning earlier by shaping the conditions around you. The better choice becomes simpler, faster, and more obvious. For self-improvement audiences, this is one of the most liberating messages in the whole book. You do not have to keep proving your strength every hour. You can build a life that asks less from willpower and gives more support to the person you want to become. The deeper lesson is simple. Motivation comes and goes. Environment keeps speaking. If you want more consistent behavior, start paying attention to the world around your behavior. If the environment matters this much, then one of the smartest things you can do is design it intentionally. This is where the book becomes especially practical. Hardy argues that successful people do not simply hope they will make the right decisions in difficult moments. They shape their lives so that those decisions become easier to make. That may mean eliminating distractions before they become a problem. It may mean creating routines that reduce decision fatigue. It may mean removing access to things that constantly weaken your focus. It may mean building spaces that are meant for specific types of behavior. A room for work. A place for rest. A setup for writing. A schedule for deep focus. This matters because every extra source of friction can weaken a good habit, and every extra source of temptation can strengthen a bad one. The brain naturally moves toward what is convenient. That is why better life design matters so much. The book encourages a proactive mindset. Instead of reacting to bad choices after they happen, shape the system before the moment arrives. Do not wait until you are tired, stressed, hungry, or emotionally drained to rely on good judgment. Prepare the environment in advance. This approach changes how you think about discipline. Discipline stops being only about resisting temptation in real time. It becomes about setting up a life where temptation has less power to control you. This also explains why some people seem incredibly consistent. Often, they are not winning because they have superhuman willpower. They are winning because they have reduced chaos, increased structure, and built routines that support their goals. That is a more realistic and repeatable model of success. It means you do not need to become perfect. You need to become more intentional in how your life is arranged. The key lesson here is powerful. The more your life is designed for the person you want to be, the less energy you waste fighting the person you used to be. A major theme in the book is the idea of an enriched environment. Hardy argues that people grow more effectively when they place themselves in environments that challenge them, support them, and bring out better behavior. An enriched environment is not just comfortable. It is stimulating in the right way. It pushes you to rise. It reminds you of your goals. It exposes you to higher standards. It encourages learning, focus, and contribution. It is an environment that makes mediocrity harder to maintain. This is important because many people stay stuck not simply because of bad habits, but because their environment keeps reinforcing a smaller version of themselves. They remain surrounded by low expectations, weak routines, shallow distractions, or people who normalize drift. Hardy suggests that if you want a better life, you may need a better environment. That can include physical surroundings, but it also includes social surroundings. The people around you influence your ambition, your discipline, your confidence, and your sense of what is normal. This means growth often requires more than private determination. It may require stepping into spaces that demand more from you. Learning environments, professional circles, strong routines, accountability structures, spaces that reflect who you want to become rather than who you have been. For self-improvement, this lesson is deeply useful. You may not need more pep talks. You may need better conditions, better books, better peers, better structure, better exposure, better standards. The power of an enriched environment is that it changes what feels natural. When you are surrounded by better influences, stronger expectations, and meaningful challenges, your own behavior often begins rising to match. That is why this section of the book matters so much. It reminds you that self-improvement is not just about inner belief. It is also about outer placement. Put yourself in better conditions, and better behavior becomes much more likely. Another major idea in Willpower Doesn't Work is that commitment changes how people behave. When the stakes become real, people often discover more focus, discipline, and follow-through than they thought they had. Hardy argues that many people stay too casual with their goals. They say they want something, but they leave themselves endless room to back out, delay, or drift. As a result, the goal remains emotionally weak. There is no real consequence, no real investment, and no real urgency. Commitment changes that. Once you commit in a meaningful way, behavior shifts. A deadline becomes stronger. A public promise changes your actions. Financial investment changes your seriousness. Telling other people changes the emotional pressure. Making a decision that cannot easily be reversed creates momentum. This matters because people often underestimate how much seriousness matters. When a goal feels optional, the old pattern usually wins. When the goal becomes linked to identity, investment, and external consequence, effort becomes more consistent. Hardy's view is that commitment is not just an emotional feeling. It is something you can build through structure. You can create stronger commitment by increasing accountability, raising the cost of failure, and creating conditions where your future self is more likely to follow through. This is incredibly useful for self-improvement. If a habit keeps fading, the issue may not be lack of interest. The issue may be lack of commitment structure. The goal is too easy to ignore. That is why people often improve dramatically when real stakes appear. They finally stop treating the goal like a vague preference and start treating it like something that matters enough to shape behavior. The lesson here is powerful. Commitment creates force. The more meaningful the commitment, the more likely your actions begin aligning with your deeper goals. A very helpful message in the book is that you should stop building a life that requires constant self-control. That kind of life is exhausting, unstable, and hard to sustain. Many people unintentionally design their days around repeated temptation. Their phone is always beside them. Their biggest distractions are always available. Their hardest decisions are made when they are tired. Their routines depend on mood. Their environment keeps inviting the very behavior they are trying to avoid. Then they assume the solution is to become stronger. Hardy argues that the better solution is to remove the need for so much strength in the first place. This is a subtle but important shift. Instead of glorifying internal struggle, you start reducing the number of battles you need to fight. You create barriers against bad behavior. You automate good behavior. You simplify decisions. You create conditions where success happens with less resistance. This is especially useful because willpower is weakest when stress is high, energy is low, or life becomes chaotic. A strong system protects you in those moments. A weak system depends on you feeling perfect. For example, a person who wants better focus may create deep work blocks with no notifications. A person who wants to eat better may prepare food in advance. A person who wants to save money may automate transfers. A person who wants to stop doom scrolling may remove apps entirely. These are not minor tricks. They are structural decisions that reduce the pressure on self-control. The broader lesson is that the smartest life is often the one with fewer unnecessary temptations, fewer avoidable decisions, and more automatic support for your goals. That is not weakness. That is wisdom. The book's deeper message is simple. Stop trying to be a hero in a badly designed system. Design the system better. Hardy's argument is not only about productivity or external achievement. It also touches identity. The environments, commitments, and structures you choose shape the kind of person you become. This matters because people often think identity is purely internal. They think of it as mindset alone. But the book suggests that identity is strongly reinforced by how your life is set up. If your surroundings keep supporting distraction, weakness, and low standards, those patterns begin feeling normal. If your surroundings support focus, discipline, growth, and responsibility, your identity begins shifting in that direction. That means your environment is not neutral. It is teaching you something about who you are. The habits it supports, the standards it normalizes, and the routines it reinforces all contribute to self-image. This is one reason commitment matters so much. When you commit deeply to something, you start becoming someone who behaves differently. The structure around you starts reinforcing a new identity. For self-improvement, this is a huge insight. If you want a stronger identity, do not only repeat positive phrases to yourself. Build a life that gives repeated evidence of the identity you want. Put yourself in conditions where the better version of you has room to emerge. That may mean surrounding yourself with more serious people. It may mean protecting time for meaningful work. It may mean eliminating environments that keep pulling you into the worst version of yourself. The deeper lesson is that identity is not only chosen through thought. It is trained through context. The person you are becoming is being shaped by what your daily world keeps making easier, harder, acceptable, or normal. So if you want a stronger self, change the conditions that keep feeding the weaker one. One of the clearest applications of the book is social environment. Hardy emphasizes that people are heavily influenced by who they are around. The standards, expectations, emotions, habits, and ambitions of other people have a powerful effect on personal behavior. This is important because many people try to change in isolation while remaining surrounded by influences that constantly pull them backward. If your normal environment is full of excuses, distraction, low ambition, constant complaining, or weak discipline, those patterns become harder to escape. They start feeling ordinary. On the other hand, if you spend time with people who are intentional, disciplined, growth-oriented, and focused, your own standards often rise. You begin seeing different possibilities. You begin acting differently because the environment around you has changed. This is not about superiority. It is about influence. Human beings adapt to what feels normal in their surroundings. That is why social placement matters so much. For self-improvement audiences, this lesson is incredibly practical. If you feel stuck, ask who is shaping your emotional world and your standards. Who influences your habits? Who affects what feels acceptable? Who reinforces your strongest self, and who repeatedly supports your weaker patterns? Sometimes change does not begin with a new technique. It begins with a new circle, a new conversation, a new mentor, or a new standard of what is normal. Hardy's message here is simple but strong. The people around you are not just company. They are part of your environment. And your environment is shaping your future. That is why relationships matter so much in personal growth. They do not only affect how you feel. They affect what kind of life becomes easier or harder to build. An important nuance in the book is that Hardy is not saying willpower has no value at all. He is saying it is not enough to build a life on. Willpower may help you in short bursts. It can help you make a hard decision, resist something in a moment, or begin a change. But as a long-term strategy, it is too fragile. That is because life is unpredictable. Energy changes. Stress rises. Emotions shift. Tiredness lowers resistance. The environment keeps applying pressure. In that reality, a system based only on trying harder eventually breaks. This is a useful distinction because many people misunderstand self-improvement as a permanent test of inner strength. Hardy reframes it as a structural problem. The question is not only whether you can resist. The question is whether you have built conditions where resistance is needed less often. That is a much smarter way to think about growth. Short-term willpower may help you make an important move, but long-term success comes from what happens after the move. What systems are in place? What distractions are gone? What commitments are active? What environment is now supporting the change? This makes the book feel realistic rather than idealistic. It accepts human limits and works with them. Instead of pretending people should always be strong, it teaches them to become strategic. For self-improvement, this is one of the most practical takeaways. Do not trust motivation alone. Do not trust willpower alone. Use them to begin if needed, but then quickly build structure, commitment, and environment around the change. That is how progress lasts. Because what works in a motivated moment is not always what survives an ordinary week. Long-term growth belongs to systems, not just bursts of effort. The strongest way to apply this book is to stop asking only how to become more disciplined and start asking how to become more strategic. Pick one area where you keep relying on willpower and failing. It might be focus, food, exercise, spending, procrastination, sleep, or screen time. Then study the environment around that behavior. What cues trigger the pattern? What makes the bad behavior easy? What makes the good behavior harder than it should be? What in your physical space, digital space, schedule, or social world keeps reinforcing the problem? Next, redesign the system. Remove distractions. Reduce access to the bad habit. Add friction to what hurts you. Add support to what helps you. Create commitments with real stakes. Use accountability. Put yourself in stronger environments. Protect your time. Make the right action more automatic. Then raise the seriousness of the goal. Make it more real through investment, structure, visibility, or consequence. Stop treating the goal like a vague wish. After that, pay attention to identity. Ask yourself what kind of environment supports the person you want to become. Build more of that environment into your daily life. The point is not to obsess over control. The point is to stop living accidentally. Hardy's framework works best when you become intentional about the systems shaping your days. This approach is powerful because it gives you leverage. Instead of trying to fix behavior through repeated emotional effort, you improve behavior by changing the context around it. That is one of the smartest moves in personal growth. Change the system, and the behavior begins changing with it. When you step back from the whole book, several major lessons stand out clearly. First, willpower is too weak and unstable to serve as the main strategy for long-term change. Second, environment shapes behavior more strongly than most people realize. What surrounds you influences what you repeatedly do. Third, success becomes easier when you design your life intentionally rather than relying on repeated self-control. Fourth, enriched environments create stronger growth by increasing challenge, support, and higher standards. Fifth, commitment changes behavior. The more real the stakes, the more serious your effort becomes. Sixth, removing the need for constant self-control is wiser than trying to win every battle through force. Seventh, identity is reinforced by context. The conditions you live in help shape who you become. Eighth, the people around you affect your standards, your habits, and your sense of what is normal. And finally, willpower may help in the short term, but long-term success depends on structure, environment, and commitment. That is why the book stands out. Publisher descriptions frame it around the idea that instead of white-knuckling your way through change, you should alter your surroundings to support your goals. The official subtitle is Discover the Hidden Keys to Success. Content reference, OASite, 0. Index equals 0. The lasting message of Willpower Doesn't Work is both practical and liberating. You do not need to build your life around endless internal struggle. You do not need to prove your strength every hour by resisting a badly designed world. You need a better world around your goals. That means shaping your spaces, your routines, your relationships, your commitments, and your standards so that success becomes more natural. It means removing unnecessary temptation. It means building structure where chaos used to live. It means creating conditions where the stronger version of you has room to win more often. This is what makes the book so useful. It turns self-improvement away from guilt and toward design. It reminds you that change is not only about trying harder. It is about living smarter. And that is a hopeful message. Because if your failures have been structural, then your future can improve structurally too. Better systems can create better behavior. Better behavior can create a better identity. Better identity can create a better life. So the real challenge of the book is simple. Stop asking only how to become stronger. Start asking how to make strength less necessary. Shape your environment. Raise your standards. Build commitment. Choose better people. Remove what weakens you. Support what strengthens you. Because when you stop fighting yourself all day and start shaping your world on purpose, change becomes far more possible.